Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a should I upgrade episode or comparison review of the ASICS GT-2012 and the newer ASICS GT-2013. So the purpose of this review is the fact that these are both some of my favorite moderate stability shoes that have come out in the recent years. Version 12 was a massive upgrade over the previous versions of the ASICS GT-2000 series. Both these have this really nice increased posterior lateral bevel, which still could use a little bit more improvement, but it's much better than a lot of the previous versions. They have really nice centered 3D guidance that's used in the midsole that creates, there is still medial stability, but things are a little more centered than they were in the past using medial pose. And they're on the lighter end for a lot of moderate stability shoes, coming in at, like, for men's size 9, usually around 9.5 ounces, and I'll talk about how these show up in my men's size 10. However, there's a lot of similarities between these two. Version 13 was primarily like an upper update with some mild sole updates, very mildly. So people might be going, well, should I upgrade? What should I do? And so I really want to help you figure out, should you consider the ASICS G2013, or should you save a couple bucks and go with the ASICS G2012? I'll help you try to figure that out. So let's start off with specs as always. So in my men's size 10, the G2012 comes in at 280 grams, or about 9.9 ounces. The G2013 in my size 10 comes in at 274 grams, or about 9.7 ounces, so just a little bit lighter. Now, when it comes to stack height, I'm going to be very honest with you, I'm a little confused. The version 12 came in at 36 millimeters in the heel, 28 millimeters in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. When I was first looking at the specs for the G2013, I saw that it was, or at least was reported to be, a half millimeter lower stack. So 35 and a half, 27 and a half, again, for an 8 millimeter drop. When I've looked recently from Running Warehouse and other places, they've said 36, 28. So somewhere in that range, still 8 millimeter drop, still a little bit taller stack height without being super max, as we're seeing some trainers get in that range, but fairly similar, and for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much the same stack height. Now, they don't quite feel the same, and that's where things get a little bit different. They both use, as I mentioned, 3D guidance system. They have medial sidewalls, lateral sidewalls, some internal geometry that will keep you really, really nice and stable. Both them are using Pure Gel in the heel and Flight Foam Blast Plus throughout the length of the rest of the shoe. However, they don't feel quite the same. So version 12 was really nice and cushioned. Version 11 was really snappy and a little bit firmer, which was kind of consistent for the series. This one got just a little bit softer and really comfortable, but still lighter and snappy enough to be able to do some up-tempo stuff, which has been a really interesting feature of this series. Version 13 got a lot more aggressive, and it's gotten a little bit firmer, a little bit snappier, and feels obviously a little bit lighter. And so while this one really felt like this is the comfortable, easy shoe that can do some up-tempo workouts, this was the one that was like, oh, this feels a little snappier, a little firmer. So again, no supposed stack height changes, but this one just feels a little lower and snappier, where this one feels a little bit more cushion. In terms of flexibility and transition, they both feel very similar. The really big thing is just how it just feels just a little bit firmer and a little bit more cushion over here, a little softer, I should say, but there's still tons of protection underfoot. Durability has also been phenomenal. I have about 150 miles on the 12, and I have 91 on version 13, which I need to do a 100-mile review really soon. They're both doing awesome. Barely any wear. These are going to last you a really, really long time. The sole is still doing really, really good here, and I'll have to keep updating. This is still getting just a teeny bit firmer, but again, I would really help differentiate this as the little more cushioned, softer version, the little snappier and firmer version, if that is something you want. And the stability, as I've kind of referenced, is fairly similar, where version 12 feels very centered, doesn't feel too biased in one way. There's still a good amount of medial support, which is a little bit more than the lateral one. This is a medial stability shoe, although, again, more centered than prior versions. Version 13 feels way more aggressive. This, I don't know if it's the slightly larger sidewall, but I really notice the medial pressure from the medial stability a lot more than I do in version 12. And it really sits not so much in the midfoot, but kind of more back here in this, like the middle part of the heel. So if that's something you really like, that's going to be great. That's going to work better for you. Whereas if you want it to be spread out a little bit more, especially a little more in the midfoot, version 12 is going to be a little bit better option for you. So different in that areas, and the uppers are also a little bit different. Yes, they both use, I think, these like jacquard mesh, or I can't say that correctly. Somebody please, I can't speak English. It's half the time. But the volume and fit is a little bit different. Upper's a little bit thicker in version 12, but it also has a little bit more room and a little bit more volume. Version 13 has a little bit thinner upper, but it fits a little bit more snug and a little bit lower volume. Midfoot's very similar in that same regard, in terms of just a teeny bit more room over here, just a teeny bit less room over here, and the heel counters in the heel are almost exactly the same, with similar levels of padding, stiffer heel counters that have not bothered me too much, although those with sensitivity should be a little bit careful. Durability, like I said, has been good, but while these are small, there's a small update with version 13 and they're fairly similar, there are some slight differences that might make you choose one over the other. I'm going to be honest that while I like both, my preference is for version 12. It's just a little bit more comfortable for what I'm going to be using the shoe for. Yes, I've actually done a good number of workouts in version 13, but if I'm going to do that, I just want something like a super shoe or a little faster shoe. But those people that want kind of a little bit of a do-it-all shoe, 13 might be a little better option. But if you want a little more cushioning, a little more spread out stability, teeny bit more room, version 12 might be the better option for you, compared to the little bit more snug, a little bit more lower volume, a little bit snappier, a little bit faster shoe over in version 13. As always, please let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with me. I think for the most part, they're somewhat similar, but that mild differences might help push people one direction versus the other. This one's also going to be cheaper because you're going to find it on sale, which is also a really motivating factor, to be totally honest, in today's day and age. Okay. The other thing I want to know is this helpful? I'm really hoping this is helpful. I'm trying to help people make better decisions about what they put on their feet, because I also want you to be happy and healthy.